All right, guys, it looks like we are live here. Very, very good. Everything looks like it is working. Yes, I still have to get used to this crazy delay going on here, but I think we are good to go. As you come on in here, gang, make sure you give me a little feedback that the sound is going well. It looks like it is. But my, oh my, we have never a dull day. May you live in interesting times, as the proverb goes. Tons to talk about today. Lindsey Graham, the Rhino par excellence, is actually publicly calling for the assassination of Russian President Vladimir Putin, and he did it on Twitter. I mean, this is what I'm not quite understanding. He did it on Twitter. A major U.S. senator just called for the assassination of the president of a G20 nation. And he did it on Twitter, and last I looked, the tweet is still up there. I'm just wondering, am I the only one wondering if calling for the killing of another person is a violation of Twitter's anti-violence policy? What do you think? Oh, my. Zane, welcome. Zane, you started us off perfectly, because I think that's exactly what Graham has to resign. I mean, the significance of these comments go way beyond rash and reckless. I mean, this is absolutely absurd, and I think he needs to resign. We'll get into it as we go along. And again, I'm just curious, why is it that Twitter is leaving these comments up? I mean, he's calling for the killing of somebody, and apparently that doesn't violate Twitter's anti-violence policy. Well, I guess, again, it's selective censorship. Greetings, everyone. Come on in, guys. I see you're all coming on in. I want Graham gone now. The organic veil. You are not the only one, my friend. Dr. Steve here with you, as always, finishing off an incredible news packed week. I am your Patriot Professor. Come on into your Patriot Professor's Den, where we daily talk about the rise of a new post-secular, post-globalist age. Remember, you're going to get all kinds of stuff out there in talk radio, in other channels. They're all quite wonderful, no question about it. But they're generally analyzing what's going on now, or how things are maybe falling apart, or what have you. Here we focus on the new world that is rising from the ashes of a crumbling globalism. And my, oh my, has the last week and a half hastened that rise. It's absolutely astonishing. So we talk about all things post-secular, post-globalist here, and my, oh my, are we seeing the old globalist order breaking apart, shattering right in front of our very eyes. We'll be getting into that, particularly with regard to India today. So we got lots to talk about. We got, of course, we got a major U.S. Senator, Lindsey Graham, calling for Putin's assassination. He's calling for the assassination of a world leader. We got more news on President Trump and this, what CNN calls his shadow presidency. President Trump is challenging Mitch McConnell for the Senate leadership, where it looks like the Republicans are going to take over the Senate in November in the midterms. And he wants to have McConnell replaced. So it looks like we're seeing further evidence of a kind of shadow government being run by Trump. We'll be talking about that today. He's certainly calling the shots for the Republican Party in D.C. and around the nation, and is in effect a de facto president for half the country. And we've got threats of sanctions against India, which promised to backfire big time. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. We're going to talk about the rise of what is called the civilization state. This is an excellent book. It was actually a bestseller in China, geopolitical work on the China wave, rise of a civilizational state. We're going to be talking about the significance of civilization states and how India, Russia, and China promise to be the very first civilizational, post-globalist civilizational states and decisively bring the liberal globalist order to an end, literally right before our very eyes. So there's lots to cover here today. So come on in. We got our super chats up. I'll try to answer the questions that you have. But before we begin, let me ask you, gang, with the comments of Lindsey Graham here, what if you could take down local rhinos, Republicans in name only, like Lindsey Graham and Liz Cheney and Mittens Romney? What if you could take politicians like that down, particularly in your local area, without any former experience or political career? What if you could learn how to do that from actual patriot rhino hunters who have successfully defeated these kinds of guys? Well, tomorrow on Saturday, March 5th, we're going to do just that at our rhino hunting boot camp. I've invited a panel of some of the best rhino hunters out there. Everyday people inspire me by fighting back in their local communities and successfully getting true patriots elected to office. So you don't want to miss this event tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Just all you have to do is click on the link below, or you can go to our website, rhinohuntingbootcamp.com. That's rhinohuntingbootcamp.com to learn more. Spots are going incredibly quickly because I've kept the discounted tickets up to 90%. That ends tonight at midnight. So the clock is running out. Do not wait. Click on that link below and join hundreds of already registered fellow patriots virtually from the comfort of your own couch, and let's together turn our anger into action. Sign up for your rhinohuntingbootcamp.com or just click on that link below. I cannot wait to see you there tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely awesome. I'm so excited. All right, gang, so let's dive right in here. I got tons of stuff here. Lindsey Graham, the rhino of rhinos, Sean Hannity's favorite guest, interestingly enough, which is fitting since they've both been hell-bent on starting World War III together. Well, true to form to that, Lindsey Graham took to Twitter last night and called for the assassination of Russian President Vladimir Putin. So this is from the New York Post. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham called on Russians to assassinate President Vladimir Putin Thursday night as Ukraine pleaded with the West to fight the nuclear terror. Just so you know, I mean, Ukraine is crying out in its hour of need, and you should know NATO is really not responding. Zelensky's basically getting crickets, and we'll talk about more or less why that is. So Graham, 66, South Carolina Republican, made the call to action on Twitter as he compared on Twitter. What kind of world are we in? You call for the assassination of a world leader on Twitter. He compared Putin to Roman dictator Julius Caesar and Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Is there a Brutus in Russia? Is there a more successful Colonel Stauffenberg in the Russian military? The only way this ends is for somebody in Russia to take this guy out. You would be doing your country and the world a great service. Now, the Washington Post, I mean, I can't even believe this guy is a senator. But the Washington Post is reporting as of this morning that Graham is getting some massive backlash from both political parties for his comments. I mean, you know, it's got to be said here. These comments aren't merely reckless, okay? They're not merely rash or irresponsible or impulsive or careless. I mean, you've got to understand that the public calling for the assassination of a world leader is a provocation to war. Okay? The actual act of assassinating a world leader is an act of war, and calls for such an assassination are right at the precipice of that. Okay? They're right at the precipice of that. This call was not merely irresponsible. It actually borders on being absolutely catastrophic and cataclysmic. Okay, that's the first thing we have to understand. So I know we like to mock and ridicule rhinos, Republicans in name only. I prefer Diablos. I've said that before, right? Democrats and all, but label. I don't know where the O comes in, but I mean, there's no question about it. We can mock and ridicule Graham, but those comments are literally bordering on cataclysmic. That is some seriously catastrophic rhetoric there. The second thing I would mention here, I do think his comments are a subtle admission. What Graham said when he said the only way this thing ends is for somebody in Russia to take this guy out, he just tacitly admitted that Ukraine is not going to end this. Okay, Ukraine is not going to win this war. Despite all the cheerleading from Fox News and the mainstream media, despite all of that, Ukrainian forces are in the process, frankly, of being crushed. That, of course, is the assessment of Colonel Douglas Macgregor, who we had on our video yesterday. We featured him on our video with his interview with Tucker Carlson. And according to Macgregor, we are entering a decisive period where the Russian military that has been very slow, deliberately very slow, very soft is the technical term for it, up to this point, with not being very careful not to destroy infrastructure, leaving telecommunications, the internet up, nuclear power plants relatively untouched and the like. They have finished that side of things, for the exception of nuclear power plants. Obviously, they're going to leave them untouched. It would be self-defeating to do anything like that. The latest incident notwithstanding, which I think is just non-news. We can get into that, but nevertheless, they are about now to annihilate any and all remaining Ukrainian military resistance, particularly in the eastern Donbas region, which the media is having a wonderful time ignoring. And again, I've reiterated this countless times over the past week. This brings me no semblance of joy whatsoever. I'm an enthusiastic presenter. That's the way I feel I need to be. I am passionate about the information I share with you and the like, but do not confuse the enthusiasm, my default enthusiasm for conveying news. Do not confuse that enthusiasm with my taking joy in what is actually happening. As an Orthodox Christian myself, I see this whole situation as absolutely and totally tragic beyond words. I pray every single morning. This is how I begin my day and my prayer rule. I pray every single morning for God's peace to flood this region. I want an end to this war, and I want it ended decisively. But my job as your daily fake news antidote, my job is to report what I believe is actually happening as I best understand it. And that, of course, has to be fact-checked by you. Take what I say, fact-check it, as it were. Do your own research. This channel, I hope, is only part of your daily diet of information, and I just hope to make a positive contribution to that. But make it clear, I am on no sides on this. I am trying to understand what is happening, number one, and number two, what's the world? How is the world changing as a result of this? Out of the ashes of Ukraine, what kind of world is rising? And that's why we get into things like the rise of civilizational states in Russia and China and India that's going to effectively bring an end to the old globalist neoliberal order. So that said, I think Graham is tacitly admitting in his, again, beyond reckless comments, that Ukrainian forces are not going to end this. They are, in fact, about to be decisively defeated. Russian troop formations have surrounded and enclosed the whole Donbas region in the east. If you can picture in your mind some of our other videos, we have some maps. Oh, let's see. Delio, let me see if I can stop this here. Let me see. Greetings, Dr. Turley. What's your take on these events coincide with the fourth turning and its consequences on the globalist Great Reset? All right, very good. Yeah, real brief. Fourth turning is the idea that that nations revolve in more or less 100-year increments or so, and in 25-year generational movements. And Steve Bannon has been very popular has been very important in popularizing this notion of fourth turning. Definitely, I think so. I think we're dealing with a radical paradigm shift going on. My interest is actually a lot bigger than fourth turning, because maybe I'm wrong, and it's been a while since I opened the book. I can't even remember the two authors, but for me, the cyclical theory is a little bit bigger and more civilizational. So I'm seeing us actually moving into a different kind of age. So Bannon is arguing that we're on the precipice of a 100-year dominance of nationalist populism because of this fourth turning. I think this is contributing to that precisely because we're seeing the death of the old neoliberal order, which does go beyond our own national fourth turning. So that's what I mean. I think there's a bigger cyclical moment happening here, which I think is moving from the modern age to the postmodern age. Modern age is a one-size-fits-all scientific, rationalist political and economic system to be imposed upon all people's times and places. That we had three options for that. We had Western neoliberalism, we had Soviet communism, we had Nazi fascism. They are all one by one imploding. And what we're seeing now is the rise more of a postmodern world that's post-secular, post-globalist, and it's made up really of three things, as I understand. It's the return of ethno-states, so that's we're seeing lots of. I'm going to try to get you, Tina, in a sec. That's where you're seeing a lot of secession going on. It's not just ethno; it's also regional, like Texit, for example, that sort of thing. You're seeing the rise of civic nationalist states. That's what Trump is doing. That's what Bannon is putting forward. Multi-ethnic states, but all geared around some kind of nation-first policy. And then we're seeing the rise increasingly of civilizational states. And that's where you're seeing massive swaths of land like Russia, China, India, basically becoming their own self-enclosed world. And it's the dynamic is the extent to which the smaller microstates, ethno-states, like in the Donbas region with Lugansk and Donetsk, do they just eventually get absorbed into these more imperial sort of civilizational states? That's going to be sort of the dynamic that's going on. So that's what I understand. So definitely fourth turning, definitely globalism collapsing, definitely a new paradigm having to take over here eventually. As it's part of this bigger movement here. Let's see what else. You guys are coming. Super chats are coming in. Where was that one? Tina, is there any truth to U.S. biolab targets? Is there more than? Yeah. There's more. I don't know about that, Tina. That's sort of fog of war stuff. Let me see. I think I might have even had something. No. I mean, you had the Zaporozhye nuclear plant, but that seems to have been when all said and done. Again, that's an office fire. It had nothing to do with the actual nuclear reactor. So there's a little fog of war there. It's hard to determine what's going on there. We'll have to see as the fog clears. And Bufford, I dislike communism, to put it mildly, and blame Russia, Soviet Union for much of it. I agree with Pat said World War II. We should have stopped till we got to Moscow. That being said, I stand with her. Interesting, Buford. Interesting. Very, very good. Well, you're not alone. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard immediately tweeted out after Russia went in to Ukraine. She immediately tweeted out that we could have prevented this if we didn't have NATO eastward expansion onto the border of Russia, and creating what is, in effect, a reverse Cuban Missile Crisis. The architect of the containment policy for the Soviet Union said the same thing. One of the biggest videos you can watch, most viewed videos you can watch on YouTube right now, is a lecture from the University of Chicago. I think it was like 8-9 years ago, where the political scientist was arguing the NATO policy of constant encroaching eastward expansion is going to result in a war in Ukraine. It's really fascinating stuff. I think it has 15 million views right now. So anyway, the theater that we need to be looking at right now is the Donbas. The media is not the media is in Kiev. Kharkov. They're in different places. They're in the urban metropolitan areas because that's where the mainstream media hangs out. New York Times, L.A. Times, Washington Post. They're hardcore cosmopolitan liberals. They're hanging out in the cities. There's not a lot of activity in those cities. The activities in the Donbas region in the east. And right now, you have upwards of 60,000 Ukrainian troops. There may be more. We don't know precisely how many troops are there, but they are surrounded. They are encircled and enclosed by a Russian formation called the Cauldron, which function. We talked about it with some maps and some of our other videos. It functions like a boa constrictor, which basically crushes everything inside. And according to Colonel McGregor's analysis and a number of other military analysts, this is effectively checkmate for the Russians. They've surrounded and will capture or destroy upwards, depending on the numbers of Ukrainian troops there, anywhere from 25%, maybe as high as 40% of the Ukrainian army will effectively be, they will either have surrendered or they would have been wiped out. Keep in mind, in addition to that, Ukraine's Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, and now upwards of 30-40% of their military is about to be wiped out. So once Ukrainian military is captured, defeated in Donbas, this war is effectively over, and Ukraine will just have really no leverage whatsoever. Putin will pretty much get whatever he wants. That's the way I think this is working itself out. So I do think that Graham is subtly and tacitly admitting that. And so in an act of desperation, rhetorical desperation, he's calling for someone inside the Kremlin to take Putin out. Again, besides bordering on the cataclysmic, I actually think, I do think, as we started this off, I think Lindsey Graham should resoundingly be called on to resign for comments like that. You don't do that. Especially not with you don't do it with anyone, but especially a G20 nation. This is akin to, calling on Boris Johnson to be assassinated, like something akin to that. Besides bordering on being cataclysmic, the comment was just plain stupid. Putin has the unanimous backing of the Russian government for this. Not to mention, that's another story, about 70% of the Russian people. This is from the British Daily Mail. Russian trust in Putin has surged since the invasion of Ukraine. Study claims support is up from 60% to 71%. It is huge. It's 50-50 split in the major cities, in Moscow and St. Petersburg and the cosmopolitan areas where you've been seeing some of the protests. But the vast majority of the nation is behind Putin in this. Again, you have to remember, we tend to see Wokism and neoliberal leftism and all that sort of stuff. We tend to see that in terms of a civil war, Republicans versus Democrats, our urban versus the ex-urban, or, the coastal elites versus, mid-America, whatever. Russia sees wokeism and neoliberalism as a foreign invasion. It's not a civil war. It's a foreign invasion. And, there's an old principle that external threats breed internal solidarity. And so the more Putin is able to convince the Russian population that this is a special military operation to secure their national security from literally a foreign invasion, a NATO invasion, the more Russians are going to support him. So I think Graham is just living in a DC bubble, a woke echo chamber, like all other rhinos, by the way. So, and of course, that reminds me, if you just joined us, that today is our final call for everyone who wants to join us for our rhino hunting virtual boot camp tomorrow, March 5th, with our special guest, Pennsylvania Senator Doug Mastriano. We've got Dr. Oz's opponent, Kathy Barnett. She's going to be joining us. A host of other patriots fighting rhinos and winning. So tomorrow is today is the last day to register for this conference. Tomorrow we're going to show you how to best prepare for this massive red wave that seems to be forming. So make sure to click on the link below or go to rhinohuntingbootcamp.com. That's rhinohuntingbootcamp.com to learn more about this incredible event. Very few spots left. I've discounted tickets up to 90% through midnight tonight. Again, last call. Sign up now, rhinohuntingbootcamp.com, or just click on the link below. Can't wait to see you guys for tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely awesome. We're so excited for it. Been prepping hard for it. All right, so speaking of rhinos, put in the chat there. This will be fun. Put in the chat your 3 most despised rhinos that you would love to see defeated at some point, right? Give us your top 3 rhinos in the chat. This should be a lot of fun. If you already see your rhino represented, give us your second tier. All right, let's see. Whoa. Sorry, I just saw Nick. Sorry, Nick. Do you think that China will eventually make a move on Taiwan, and what the result would be? I wouldn't be surprised if the Ukraine situation is a test for Biden, and that China taking Taiwan will be bad for the West. Excellent question, Nick. I mean, I'm going to have to say it in many respects. I do think, China's going to take Taiwan at some point. I mean, it may not be in our lifetimes, right? But as things stand, there is just no way that Taiwan can resist this massive civilization state, that it lives under its shadow, this volcano. And China has made it absolutely clear on every occasion they can, particularly on the Chinese embassy's website here in the United States. They made absolutely clear Taiwan is China. Yeah, there is only one Chinese nation. There's only one government, the CCP for China, and Taiwan is China. So we'll have to see when that happens. But I just think that's baked into the cards, or baked in the cake, as it were. What will be the result? I have no idea at this point. I have no idea. Again, the question is, what's going on? Yes, I do think there was some testing here. The official Chinese newspaper, I forget, they came out. It was a Global Times. It came out just the other day and basically mocked the United States by saying the days of World War II are over. There is no way the United States could fight a two-pronged war anymore. There's just we cannot fight both Russia and China. And forget if India were to get involved now with India's growing massive military. And remember, India is very close, very, very close to Russia. That's why they didn't vote to sanction the other day. So I don't know what the answer is to what the effects would be for the West. I do see it as being bad for the West. At the very least, it's going to dramatically reduce our influence in the world. We are, Victor Davis Hanson argues, we're fast becoming, under Biden, this was not the case with Trump, we're fast becoming a very, very powerful nation that is having very little influence on world affairs right now. The world, I did a video on this right after the fall of Kabul, where the videos, Putin is now at the center of the world. The world was basically turning to Russia on trying to figure out, Europe, the world being particularly Europe, but also Pakistan, Iran, and China. They were looking at Russia for its moderating influence that they have over the Taliban. And Biden was just there licking his ice cream, like my shirt. By the way, have you seen this shirt? This is one of our new ones in our merch store. Go to store.turleytalks.com for all this cool merch. But there you are, Joe Biden licking his ice cream as the world is blowing up. Yeah, if you want to support the channel, if you can't come tomorrow and you still want to support the channel in some way, just go to store.turleytalks.com. We got tons of awesome shirts. You're gonna love it. And we get comments all the time when we wear this. So anyway, sorry for the shameless plug in there, but needless to say, I think it's going to be bad for the West, and that it's going to continue to demonstrate an imploding influence on this new global, post-globalist, post-secular order. Great question, Nick. Fantastic question. We'll have to see what happens there. All righty. Let's see. So top 3 rhinos. I know mine. Romney,
Graham, and Cheney. It's just those are the three stooges that just, I don't know what it is. Every time I look at them, I cringe. McConnell's right up there as well. Now, again, speaking of rhinos, I don't know if you saw this, but it is being widely reported. I've got this from Politico. It's being widely reported that Trump is actively recruiting Florida Senator Rick Scott to replace Senate Majority Leader, as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell once and for all. Trump is absolutely dead set on getting these rhinos sidelined as quick as possible. And I think that is probably the first of two major takeaways from this move. Trump tries to recruit Rick Scott for Majority Leader. And I think the first significant element of this is that it's another sign that the Rhino faction of the Republican Party is slowly but surely getting sidelined. They're getting marginalized. The patriot movement in the Republican Party is becoming too powerful. And the leadership is inevitably going to have to reflect the wishes and the values of the grassroots, or otherwise they go third party. So we'll be talking a lot about this tomorrow in the Rhino Hunting Virtual Conference, which, again, you can still sign up for by clicking on that link below. But secondly, I think what this move by Trump to replace Mitch McConnell as a majority leader with Rick Scott, the second thing is that it's more evidence that we're seeing that Trump is running a kind of shadow presidency. I don't know if you could see this headline here. The light is out of it, but this is from, the light is blocking out. This is from CNN. Yet more evidence Donald Trump is running a shadow presidency. It's an article from last year, but it's a highlight of a recurring theme that is coming up a lot, where there is a general consensus that President Trump, in continuing to hold his rallies, in maintaining constant contact with his tens of millions of supporters, as well as amassing over $100 million in his campaign war chest through Save America PAC, in endorsing now, I think it's over 60 candidates for the midterms. He is indeed effectively governing a significant portion of the nation through his control over the GOP policies at both the federal and state levels. It's really, really fascinating stuff. We've never really seen anything like it that I know of. We have, in many ways, two presidents right now, all right? We got one who sometimes sits in the Oval Office when he's not taking naps in Delaware and eating ice cream. And we have the other that's running, in effect, an opposition government. That, by the way, is working big time. Polls are coming out, and they're almost unanimous in the fact that Trump would trounce Biden today if we had the election. So the shadow presidency, as it were, is working incredibly well in terms of Trump's advantage. Trump is controlling Republicans on Capitol Hill because he's effectively starved the RNC, Republican National Committee, of funds, because they fund rhinos, right? So don't give money to RNC. Give your money to Save America PAC. He's starving RNC with the Save America PAC. It's raised more than twice the amount of money that the RNC has. So Republicans at the federal level really are beholden to him. They have no choice. He's been very, very effective in redirecting the money, right? Follow the money away from the RNC and towards his own PAC. And now that's why I think you have so many Republicans at the federal level, senators, representatives and the like, who are refusing to go against Trump at all. Liz Cheney, of course, is funded by the Lincoln Project, so she goes against it because she's found she can get very, very rich by going against him, with Democrats giving her money and Bushes and rhinos and all that. But for everybody else, they're dependent on Trump. So he's been very effective solidifying his power over federal Republicans. And he's been very effective in directing Republicans at the local and state levels who need his endorsement to win re-election by getting through the primaries. And so we're seeing a torrent of legislation passing red states in terms of election integrity laws that are the direct result of Trump's influence. So we really are seeing Trump effectively controlling, at least in part, the politics of at least half the country. So that's this notion of his shadow presidency. And we're seeing it again in the possible replacement of McConnell as Senate leader with Trump's hand-picked alternative, Florida's Rick Scott. And again, what's so amazing here is that Trump's continuing influence is evidence that Trump's war with globalism and globalists continues here in the States. I know they were all hoping for a great reset, and establishment Republicans were hoping that they would be able to go to the great Romney era or the McCain era or the Dole era or Bush W era. But that ship has sailed. It's gone. The reason why Trump remains so popular is he has established his bona fides as a champion for the rural vote, the rural voter who were traditionally working class Democrats. They have defected over to the Republican Party. They are thoroughly MAGA, thoroughly nationalist, populist, old school politics, and they are giving their full support to Trump. And we're seeing that anyone who stands by him, like Youngkin did, the media did everything they could to try to rip the two apart. Never happened. Because of that, Youngkin got 75% of the vote from white non-college grad women who, again, traditionally were blue-collar Democrats. So this is an astonishing political realignment that's happening right before our very eyes, and there's no way the old Republican Party is going to come back. Sign up, click on that link tomorrow, and sign up for our Rhino hunting boot camp, so we can now finally get rid of all these rhinos because the wind's at our backs. But speaking of all that, won't India come on our side with China? Says Sam, what great minds think alike, because I was just about to pivot to India. Will come on our side with China. No, Sam, India is not coming on our side. I don't see it, at least. And I don't see China coming on our side. I think China is thoroughly behind Russia in this. They're saying it in their very diplomatic, very wise, very Ent way, right? The Ents, the trees, and Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. China has this very ancient, long view perspective on things. They talk in very slow and tempered ways. They let the Global Times go off and act like they're sort of their talk radio, and get a little bit more inflammatory in their rhetoric there. But no, I don't think so. And let's pivot, and I'll show you why I think India. I think in many ways we may have lost India. We'll see how it goes. And when I say we, I don't mean patriots, and I don't mean Trump. India would be on the side of Trump. Well, you wouldn't have this situation. Again, Victor Davis Hanson made a brilliant argument for why Putin would never have done this if Trump were in office. Most Americans recognize that. Our energy independence alone would have taken away any leverage that Putin had on the global market with his food and fuel. Remember, Russia's an exporting superpower, and the energy independence alone puts such a dent into that ability. This is the argument that, again, Putin wouldn't have any leverage over. Thank you, Gina. That's very appreciated. Thank you. He wouldn't have any leverage over Europe and other nations with his energy. And we're talking energy, we're talking fertilizers, we're talking metals. I mean, as I understand it, Russia's the #1 exporter of wheat, and Ukraine is the #2 exporter of wheat. And in particularly, as I understand, in the Donbas region, in the eastern region. So Putin is about to have firm control over both the #1 and #2 exporting wheat products. So I mean, again, this is why Wokism is a national security issue. This is why environmentalism is a national security issue. The real world doesn't work that way. And so a very realist geopolitics would just laugh at the AOCs of the world, and hopefully we will now, and explain to them precisely this is why we cannot ever stop being energy independent, America first, become as powerful in our own way, become a civilization state in our own right, a very self-sufficient
nation that then is able to export that self-sufficiency, as it were. Why are we still importing Russian oil and gas? Because Biden is a creep. Biden made it clear in his campaign, the 2020 campaign, that they would stop the energy drilling, the coal and so forth, because it was bad for the environment. So instead, we're going to have so green energy is the priority right now of the United States government. And so in the meantime, we still rely on fossil fuels, limited amount here in the United States, and a tremendously amount across the world, including Russia. By the way, take a look at your gas prices today. They're only going to go up even more because Russia, in response to these sanctions, you can expect Russia, with a nice smile, to begin to push back on their to recede their food and fuel, thus driving up costs, and fertilizer, driving up costs like you never imagined, right? Without fertilizer, it's a little hard to grow things. So anyway, let's switch to India, and let's talk about what's happened with India. I just have to say that the Biden administration, we did a video on this yesterday with the Biden administration considering sanctions on India in response to India's refusing to put sanctions on Russia. Apex, is World War III necessary at this point for the New World Order? Now, that's what a lot of people are asking, Apex. I mean, is this, in the end, is the only thing that the New World Order is going to be able to do is launch a third world war? I just, I'm skeptical of that just because I'm watching the NWO just collapse right in front of our very eyes, just with SWIFT alone, right? The Society of Worldwide Interbanking Financial Telecommunication. How's that for a cumbersome title there? But SWIFT is your default international financial banking transaction platform. And they just cut off most of, half dozen Russian banks from SWIFT. And they in turn sanction Russia's central bank. And this is pushing Russia over now to China and creating a self-sufficient trading partnership with China, China being their number one trading partner. And China has their own international financial transaction platform called KIPS. And China can't wait to have KIPS replace SWIFT. And as in terms of the NWO, what makes SWIFT so important is that while it's used by 200 countries, it's only controlled by a dozen, the central bank of about a dozen, United States, EU countries, and Japan. And so you're seeing a lot of the non-Western world, which is approaching 80% of the world's population, getting very nervous with the weaponization of SWIFT. So, in other words, if the U.S. and EU can cancel an entire country, a G20 country, when are they going to cancel us? Because we refuse to do what they want us to do. So I think in many respects, at least at the financial level, you are starting to see absolutely the shattering of the globalist world order. I think you're actually seeing it. We're going to have to see what the World Economic Forum has to say with all this sort of stuff. But I think they got a lot weaker as of today. And China is beginning to turn its back more and more on the globalist order in the name of a civilization state. And that's something that I don't think the bullies in Brussels or WF considered. We'll have to see, but that's my sense. Trash Can Ways, salute to what you do. Thank you, Trash Can Ways. Thank you. I mean, I do it for you. Thank you. I love it. This is an honor and a privilege to China. Thanks, Carol. Yeah, I did see a meme there, by the way. I did see a meme. Don't you? And all it said was, I think it was a tweet or something. Don't you miss how he said China? And everyone knew. Everyone knew what he meant. And of course, there was another one too. It's the Batman signal. Right, that would normally have the Batman logo, whatever. And instead, it has the facade of Trump, and this is the caption was, "This is what the entire world is like today." We're just like, come on, man,
come on back, because the world was definitely, I mean, the world was falling apart with Trump too. The globalist order was falling apart, but he seemed to have a semblance of control over that shattering. He was able to sort of direct it and guide it and orchestrate it to the benefit of the United States and our allies and the like. Bumbling Biden and Europe right now look like they've totally lost control of the situation. And really, it's more China, Russia, and India who are beginning to become the major powers coming out of these ashes. Now, you should know the Biden administration is threatening to sanction India. It's absolutely absurd because India refused to sanction Russia, to vote for sanction on Russia at the UN Security Council. They're saying it's because India purchased weapons from Russia, but most pundits are noticing that the threat of sanctions against India comes just literally hours after they refused to vote in favor of the Russian sanctions. India, China, United Arab Emirates, of course, Russia, they all abstained. I think Russia voted against, but the rest all abstained on the UN resolution sponsored by the United States. Can the West afford to sanction China like Russia? No. Again, thanks, Apex. No, I don't think so. I think China and Russia and increasingly India are becoming self-sufficient. They are effectively weaning themselves off any kind of dependency on a globalist government, on an U.S., EU-run financial system, and they're creating their own. They're creating their own, a Eurasian system that promises to completely and decisively disrupt the old globalist economic order, and increasingly political and militaristic as well. So it's fascinating stuff, and cultural too, because they are far more religious. Even India, even China, in many respects, with its Neo-Confucian revival that's being led by President Xi and the administration there. So anyway, I think this obviously these sanctions are insane. They're suicidal. I think Biden worked very hard to pressure India to vote for sanctions against Russia. There's all kinds of reasons why India would not do that in terms of their history and the like, not the least amount as Kashmir. Kashmir is not just an issue between India and Pakistan. It's also an issue between India and China, and Russia is extremely influential over China. Again, to be a mediating influence here, just very similar to they are with the Taliban in Afghanistan. All I want to say on this, to add to what we were talking about yesterday, beside it being absolutely foolhardy on the Biden's part, is this is only going to exasperate. This is only going to hasten what appears to be India's rise as the next great civilizational state. And that is a term you're going to want to write down, because this is popping up a lot, I've noticed. It's very much associated with Sam Huntington's Clash of Civilizations thesis, and how the world order is being remade. Remember, the subtitle, The Clash of Civilizations, actually it's technically the second part of the title, is the remaking of world order. So this is what this channel is dedicated to, is the remaking of that, is analyzing the remaking of that world order. And the civilization state, we're finding, is becoming central to that. It's a very fascinating concept. We've been talking a lot about it lately. A civilization state is a totalizing political and economic system organized around a comprehensive culture that encompasses often a very wide geographical sphere. And what's so key here is that with a civilization state, the ultimate purpose of the state and the economy and the entire structure of the state the nation is to protect and defend and perpetuate the culture of a particular population. So the culture of the population is paramount, and the politics and the economics of the population serve to further that culture. Let me get you next. Sorry, just saw you there. Got another super chat here. Thank you for all these super chats, gang. Given what happened in Virginia and what almost happened in New Jersey, do you think blue states like Illinois could go red or purple? I'm from there, and I hope I don't need to move. Yeah, Illinois or Jersey, either one of those. Yeah, no, absolutely. It can. It's going to be tough, but it can. And this is largely because Wokism is actually, we have data now, Wokism is splitting. Wokism is splitting the left. The left is made up of two overall constituents, so kind of your classic liberals, as it were, your cultural liberals, they're often referred to as, and that's going to be someone like a Bill Maher, for example, or it's got the Bolshevik wing. I'm just trying to stop one here. The Bolshevik wing wants nothing to do with anybody that is not itself. It's a totalizing system of thought that can entertain any dissent. So, this is Justin Trudeau and the like. And what we find is when you ask in surveys, do you support CRT being taught in our schools? Democrats are actually split on that issue. At pretty much any issue of wokeism, they're actually split. Do you support teaching BLM? Do you support all this sort of stuff, transgenderism, you name it? Democrats are actually split more or less 50-50, maybe 60-40, something like that. There's a real, it really does. Wokeism divides Democrats. However, that's not the same with Republicans. Wokism unites Republicans. So when Republicans are asked, do you think CRT should be taught to school? 98% say absolutely not. That's how Youngkin beat Terry McAuliffe. As Youngkin pushed CRT in the schools, McAuliffe was constantly on his heels because he was having to deal with an issue that was splitting his base and uniting Youngkin. So yeah, I do think it is very possible. I mean, look at what happened in San Francisco, where they voted off these 3 radical school board members over precisely these kinds of issues. So you got it. Not that they're putting in the right wing in San Francisco, but they're certainly putting in more conservative, slightly more traditionalist, more just sane, school board members as over and against the radical left. So I think you're going to start seeing the marginalization of the radical left, and that will not bode well for elections in blue states. Dream Machine, I agree. Wokeism and feminism makes us look weak and stupid. Tyrants like Putin will always take advantage of that. This wouldn't have happened under Trump. He and Putin respected each other's resolve. Very good, Dream Machine. You're not alone on that, and you're absolutely right. We have to understand the extent, not just Russia, but India, China, but particularly China of late, just mock our wokeism. They see our wokeism as laughable and absurd. And they are pushing back against big tech in its attempt to try to enforce wokeism in their respective nations. So no, the era of wokeism came and went very quick. I know it's going to take a long. We're at the apex. We're at the very center. We're the very nucleus of axis of wokeism. So it's going to take longer for it to fall apart here. But in the rest of the world, no, we're going into a post-woke world. There's no question about it. The world is becoming far more traditionalist, far more nationalist, far more populist, India being chief among them. Gang, I'm looking at the time here. I actually have a talk radio interview I got to do in the next, I think it's around 12 or so, the next 10 minutes. So let me just finish up. So for all of you guys, thanks for sticking on with me for so long on this one. It's so awesome. You guys are amazing. I think we have to understand that the rise of the civilization state is so key here, because the more Western powers weaponize the globalist system, the more we're going to see these big, massive states like Russia, China, and India create their own self-contained worlds with not literal, but sort of, metaphorical walls around themselves, keeping out foreign influence like we've done for ages upon ages in human civilization. These civilization states are big enough to no longer have to be reliant on any outside influences, and they're going to operate within their own civilizational sphere, as it were. And we talked a lot yesterday about Russia becoming really the first parallel civilization, as it were, the very first parallel civilizational state in the midst of all this. But as Russia is now getting literally canceled by the West. They say that over at the Duran a lot, which I really appreciate. I think it's great. Cancel culture is canceling a full culture right now. As that's happening, there's been some really interesting scholarship recognizing that Russia is indeed turning into a civilization state, as well as China. Again, if you want to know what I'm reading of late, The China Wave, Rise of Civilization State. It is by a Chinese scholar. And it is talking, its whole thesis is that China is a sui generis state. It is a sui generis nation, meaning it's completely unique. Nothing like it. It's a genesis of itself, as it were, and it is becoming a world unto its own. Well, the same thing is happening clearly in Russia. It's turning to its own financial platforms, its own parallel currency, its own parallel entertainment, its own parallel athletics as they're getting canceled all across Europe, its own parallel IT, its own parallel space missions, you name it. China is going to be doing the same thing. And if the Biden administration is dumb enough to sanction India, we're just going to see the hastening of that happening in India as well. India, I think, is the third candidate for a renewed civilization state. With the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, in power, Narendra Modi, and their policy of what's known as Hindutva, which is I don't know. I don't like calling it this. Please forgive me if this is wrong, but it's kind of like a Hindu version of Sharia law in a sense, where we are seeing the Hinduification of the totality of Indian society under the BJP. As that's happening, they are inevitably going to become a civilization state. There's just nowhere they're going to be there, become their own self-enclosed, self-sufficient world in and of themselves that will certainly create their own trading alliances and like, but they will be pushing, as part of those trading alliances, they are going to be excluding and pushing out foreign influences that they believe to be detrimental to the vibrancy of their culture. And so make no mistake, these sanctions that are being proposed here, okay, and we're still in the proposal or consideration mode, these sanctions would, if imposed, hasten that process of a renewed Hindu nationalist India to establish itself as a self-sufficient, self-enclosed, totalizing civilization that will no longer subject itself to the economic weaponization of Western powers. And they will join Russia and increasingly China on that. So suffice it to say, I think we really are seeing the end of globalism as we've known it. In the midst of all the ashes of this horrific Ukrainian conflict, a very, very new world appears to be rising. Gang, you're amazing. I love you. God bless you guys. Remember, today is our final call for everyone who wants to join us for our Rhino hunting event, our virtual boot camp from the comfort of your own home. It's tomorrow, March 5th. Final call today for tickets. Our special guest, Pennsylvania Senator Doug Mastriano, he'll be with us. We got Dr. Oz's opponent, Kathy Burnett. She'll be joining us. A host of other patriots who are going to show us how to fight rhinos and win. So tomorrow we're going to show you how to get prepared for this massive red wave coming up in 2022. You're going to love it. You're going to be hanging out with hundreds of your fellow patriots virtually. It's going to be so awesome. So make sure to just click on that link below. It'll be a Saturday well spent. Go to rhinohuntingbootcamp.com to learn more about the incredible event. Very few spots left, and we got a 90% discount, registration discount that ends at midnight tonight. So don't wait. Sign up now at rhinohuntingbootcamp.com or just click on that link below. And I so hope to see you guys tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely awesome. God bless you guys. I love you. Pray for peace in Ukraine, and we will continue to monitor the situation and analyze it as Ukraine and Russia and China and India all indicate we are indeed entering into a very real post-secular, post-globalist world happening right in our lifetime, happening right now. It's pretty amazing stuff. All right, all. Love you. God bless.